Kratos doesn't call Atreus boy in God of War Ragnarok. Anyone who's played 2018's God of War will instantly grin when they hear the word boy, the phrase used by Kratos for Atreus throughout most of their adventure. It seems that we won't be hearing it in Ragnarok, however, as several previews for the game that released today have noted that Kratos doesn't say it once in the opening hours of the game. Atreus was conceived between the Greek demigod Kratos and a Jötunn named Laufey, whom he called Faye, but probably nicknamed herself to hide her identity. He was a sickly child and only recently grew healthy enough to travel, but flying into a rage would return his sickness. Not much is known about his past other than the fact Kratos was rarely home because he was practicing control over his rage, which Atreus misinterprets as hunting. Kratos' absence would strain his relationship with his son, whom believed that he didn't care for him or wanted him in his life. As a child, Faye would tell Atreus stories of the Æsir Gods, Vanir Gods, the realms, and monsters that lived in Midgard. Despite not being trained by his father, Faye had taught Atreus how to hunt and how to spot different animal tracks in the forest. Faye had passed away sometime later, although the causes are still unknown, and for her final wish, asked Kratos and Atreus to spread her ashes on the highest peak of all the realms. The relationship between Kratos and Atreus has grown in God of War Ragnarok, and part of this involves the ghost of Sparta calling his son by his name. Players were first introduced to Atreus in the 2018 God of War reboot, which saw his father Kratos abandon his old god-killing ways from the original God of War games in favor of a quiet life in Midgard. This peaceful existence wouldn't last long though, as the pair are tasked with journeying to the highest peak in Jötunheim as per the dying wish of Kratos' wife Faye. Due in part to both Faye's death and the tragic loss of his original family in the old God of War trilogy, Kratos begins God of War 2018 in a cold and distant relationship with Atreus. This is best demonstrated in how Kratos calls his son boy instead of his name at any given opportunity, even after his bond with Atreus starts to grow as the epic story progresses. The real-life explanation for why Kratos called Atreus boy in God of War was that the developers at Sony Santa Monica weren't able to agree on Atreus' real name until relatively late in God of War 2018's production. But boy soon became a popular meme for the game's fans and made Kratos all the more endearing in his new role as an awkward dad. For those unaware of why this is a big deal, Kratos calls Atreus boy a lot in God of War, to the point where it became a meme around the time the game launched, even getting referenced by Christopher Judge when presenting at the Game Awards. Even outside of it being a meme, it was a key part of the last game's story, showing the distance in Kratos and Atreus and highlighting their dynamic. Several previews for God of War Ragnarok went live, detailing the first few hours of the game. One of the most interesting takeaways from these previews is that Kratos doesn't say the word boy once, instead calling Atreus by his name. The reasoning behind Kratos dropping the word boy was explained by Ragnarok's director, Eric Williams, in an interview with GamesRadar+. Williams said, he calls him Atreus. It's that idea that we really wanted it to be this feeling of like, oh, I can find a way into this story, whether I'm a parent or a child, or I'm somewhere in between, or I remember both sides of it. There's a way in for everyone. The strengthened relationship between Kratos and Atreus sounds like it's going to be tested now that the latter is a little bit older, however. Williams also spoke about how Atreus' attitude and dynamic within the group has changed now that he's older and a bit wiser. Williams explained, the last game you had Atreus just always being told what to do by adults. Anybody asks a question and they never give him an answer. But we wanted to be a lot more gray. Now we're getting into Atreus being like, well, I don't think it's like that. And Kratos and Mimir are like, oh, are you being sassy? Or should Ragnarok trailers are hiding a twist surrounding Atreus' gameplay?